has been a minute or
It
2 or
has.
3. I can't say it's been a minute because that's a protected trademark from NPR, I'm assuming, but, it's been a long time. How are you?
It's been a whole Tour de France and part of a Tour de France Femmes long
Oh,
almost.
man,
So
Tour de France Femme.
yeah,
We could spend a whole show on how
we could.
frustrating Tour de France Femme coverage has
Just the
been,
coverage, not the race
and
itself, just the
no, not
coverage.
the race itself's been great, the ones
Yeah.
we've been able to see, and same with Tour de France coverage, unless you had a VPN and Flow and Canadian and all that stuff, unless you like Peacock and their relentless commercials, but I don't wanna get on my soapbox. So we don't Phil, look it.
Yeah,
Anyways,
that's
any
that's something you can complain about just about
that's
every
the
event
worst.
we watch when it
Next
comes to
year,
cycling.
VPN and
VPNs
Flow.
and Ant McCrossan and
He's
Sean
great.
Kelly.
There's
Yeah,
some people that don't like, Anthony McCrossan.
there's
I've
people
been
that
seeing
don't like
some
Sean Kelly, but everybody's got their thing.
Yeah, and what today though, speaking of Anthony McCrossan and Hannah Walker, or Spanna, as she's noted on her socials, I'm watching the race while I'm working, and they respond to people who comment.
Well, yeah, while they're going.
Yeah, and I sent a few in like, hey, good job, you guys are doing great, love the commentary. And today Hannah goes, oh yeah, and Ian Stewart.
Yeah,
And Anthony says, oh yeah, thanks, Ian Stewart. And I was like, and like a school kid, I'm like, Ian, that's
yeah.
me.
I made it into some cyclocross coverage
Yeah, and
last
it's
year
a,
with a
I
friend of mine calling it in, and
yeah. Anyway, so we have a lot going on.
yeah,
you know, you've been busy. You went to France. We've had a summer. I've been bike. You've been biking. I was biking until I had some medical things going on. Hey, put on sunblock. There's my hint of what's been going on. A little snip, snip. But I can't go anywhere because apparently stitches may come out. But I'm gonna. My birthday's tomorrow. I'm gonna ride. I'm gonna ride for a little bit. They said like maybe a week or so. You could maybe take it easy. I got myself a little GoPro because I want to increase my views on YouTube on Ian Stewart Cycles. So I'm gonna start doing a better job of filming suburbia, which everyone wants to see.
everyone loves suburbia.
But I have some good hills and some nice roads, you know.
You do
So
live in a good place for riding in nice roads. Like the city, you have to get out of the city to get to where you are, and you're not too far from some pristine roads. So
yeah. And speaking of bikes, my article in Richmond Magazine came out. So if you guys don't get that, go get Richmond Magazine. It might be online now. I did a story on bike polo that
and
happens
a
in the city,
podcast about bike polo.
and a podcast about bike polo where I got all the sounds. If you want the ambient sounds of things getting knocked around,
It's better
go
than
check out.
pickleball.
Yeah, better than pickleball. Go check out the Mechanics of Transportation, which you're on right now, and just go back a little bit and then check it out. So, Sean, you have some stuff going on. Let's get right into what's going on race wise, because there are some things starting to happen and still happening, right?
Still happening. We got Bryan Park training series on Tuesday nights at Bryan Park. Obviously, that is still happening. We had a rain out this week. It's going to be hot next week, so it looks like we're going to race given the forecast now. We got 5 weeks left. I think it was 5 with the rain out, so 4 races left. But starting next Thursday, we also have a short track mountain bike series that goes 3 Thursdays. It starts around 5:15, 5:45. I can't remember the exact time. It's the 13th, 20th, and 27th at Dogwood Dell. Those
Oh,
are
that's
really
the one I tried to go to, and I got the wrong day
Yeah, those
last
are
year.
really fun, and they're spectator friendly, and it's pretty exciting because it's a short race. Everybody's fighting for position the whole race at the front. Anyways, there's some stragglers. I might be one this year, but I also hurt my shoulder, so I might not be mountain biking. Not sure yet. Haven't tried it.
Age, man, age is a
I
bitch.
know, and it was a stupid injury. Just I'm not going to get into it. One of my kids did something, and I wasn't paying attention, and I was holding on to something. Anyway, pulled the shoulder out of the socket. It doesn't feel good, but it's a lot better than it was a month ago. So
Good.
we'll see how things go.
You mean you're not
But
like with a Matthew Van Der Poel during a race where he like dislocated his shoulder and
Lars van der Haar
yeah,
is known
at a
for putting
cyclocross race.
his shoulder back into socket. I don't know. I couldn't have ridden my bike the day that it happened. I almost couldn't drive
Not just
home.
riding your bike, but it was a cyclocross
It was a
race where
race, right? And he still got like ninth. But speaking of cyclocross, my favorite sport, and starting on this Saturday, we're doing 4 weekends. I have a gap because I'm on vacation, but we're doing the Saturday morning 8:30 meeting at the north end of the Potterfield Bridge, so right there at the Bryan Park, Belle Isle where the dam is.
Are you able to get on Belle Isle? I mean, aren't
You
they
can't
working
get
on
on
that?
Belle Isle, but you can still go across the Potterfield Bridge. So I'm gonna hang
That's
out in
right.
that little court, like that little corner that's still open, right by the fence. And then we're gonna leave from there. We're gonna go along like Canal Walk, go to Gillies Creek, do some skills work. Then we're gonna do like a cyclocross ride up to the top of Libby Hill. There's some stairs. When we come down Libby Hill back to Cap Trail Canal Walk, we're going to go over to
There's some
Potterfield
stairs.
and do some stairs. And then we might do a little gravel section depending on who shows up to get back across the river. It's going to be about a 2-hour ride. It's going to be no drop. Any bike, not an e-bike. We really don't want people on e-bikes,
Well,
partly because you got to carry it up a set of stairs.
not just a set of stairs. Libby. You're going
Libby
to
Hill,
Libby.
right. There's a, well, we're going to cut it in half. So, but the Potterfield Bridge has on the south side has the metal stairs that go up, and those have a different cadence. We're going to ride the flood wall, which has another set of stairs that's a different cadence. So we're going to mix up all the surfaces, all the stuff. The barriers are already over at Gillies Creek to work on some barriers, carrying the bike on up the stairs there if anyone wants to, some grass turns. So big ride, 2 hours, fairly slow, probably average 10 miles an hour, but we're going to stop and talk about some things. 8:30 in the morning, north end of Potterfield Bridge. If you use Instagram, it's RVA Cross Clinic is what to search for. I'm also Jägermeister. You can find it there. And so, yeah, we've got 4 weeks, 8th, 15th, 29th, and the October 5th. Those are the 5. And then that leads perfectly into our first cyclocross race of the season, I think on October 13th. Don't quote me on that.
I won't. That's
but that's Henbiko, so it's here at Crump Park.
Nice.
Local race starts the season in first week of September.
Yeah, September. We're in August.
We shouldn't be racing cyclocross in September.
Yeah,
it's too hot. It's too hot.
I think it's just a good reminder to let people know that there's always something to do. There's always races going on. Not always, but there's always bike groups. RABA, Richmond Area Biking Association. There's all the bike shops have different bike things. So get out there and bike with people. Bike Monday Bros. We've said it time and time again.
Final Gravity's got a Saturday ride. There's everything. Yeah. All kinds of stuff to do this in this area.
Yeah. So check it out. We put things in our notes about where to go, but there's always something to do if you want to ride with people. And if you don't, that's okay. Just wave. Just wave to me.
Just wave
when you're going by. Cool. Well, it sounds like a lot is going on. Any other things, or can we get into some of the bigger issues going on?
Yeah, I mean, real quick, I just want to touch on the Bryan Park Fall Line Trail section. Is almost complete. There's just a tiny little bit that they've got to do. So we're getting super close to having that fully done. I don't know when the actual ribbon cutting will be. I think they have a ramp to build for the southern end Bellevue access area, but the pavement's down, all the grading's done. It looks great. The bathrooms are back to operational. It looks like it's almost there.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, who maybe you're tuning into this podcast for the first time, thank you. If you are, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share it with all your friends and neighbors and relatives and whoever else, your dog Sam. Fall Line Trail is a roughly 43-mile trail from Petersburg to the town of Ashland, or the other way, depending. And it will go right by the Capitol Trail, which is also a gem in our city. So little sections have been worked on for years. Like, it's been a few years now, at least like 5 or more years. Hanover, Ashland
have sections already open.
Chesterfield is slowly getting there, but so Bryan Park has been a stickler, and but they're doing great work over there. So that's what's going on with that. And we're done. No, I'm just kidding.
And we're done.
And we're done. So that's going on. Thanks for that. Nationally, I don't know if you know, there's this doofus named Sean Duffy who Road Rules. He's the current guy heading the transportation department in this administration. You can tell my fondness for him.
Only if you're in a car.
Yeah. So anyway, apparently, we didn't talk about this since we haven't been together, but I've mentioned it on social media, but DEI bike lanes, which is just ridiculous. Apparently bike lanes are DEI. So they're pulling funding for a lot. The Virginia Mercury, which I have an article coming out soon, but the great Nate Klein just wrote about an article about how the U.S. Senate stopgap bill fails to renew more than $38 billion a year in state transportation funding, which is basically
$38 billion is a lot of money.
Right.
When it comes to transportation.
Yeah. So it's set to expire at the end of September. And even if there's a continuing resolution, the Senate advanced on Monday to to become law, it's still a sticking point. So if you want to dive into that, just go to Virginia Mercury and look for his article on that. But it affects everything: bridges, airports, transit, and more. And of course, bike lanes. And with that, the American Bike League at bikeleague.org, and I'll put a link into the show notes, they have different ways for you as a biker, as a cycling, what is that noise? For you as a biker, as a cycling advocate, to get your voice heard in Congress. And so go to bikeleague.org of how to save our streets and roads for all funding, because it's a tough thing. I interviewed Andy Baino and Peter Norton, who's a well-known transportation guy. He really knows the history of Richmond and automobiles, how automobiles kind of overtook everything through various ways of marketing and stuff. But they had a discussion at VCU a while ago that I attended and put out on a podcast. And I asked him, like, what about this DEI bike lane thing? And Andy's like, we, as a Department of Transportation, our funding's secure from the state for the most part, but we also adapt. So if they're like, do this, we'll do that. But they still try to get whatever they can done, but still reach out and shout to someone. Reach out.
Advocacy is really important when it comes to alternative transportation, and we take that for granted that the gears are turning sometimes too slowly, but when the funding goes away, the gears can't turn. And so the more funding we can get. If all of the funding goes away, what we consider the cheapest of things is paint and the plastic bollards. That would go away. We're not looking at protected bike lanes. The cheapest of things will go away.
Yeah. So anytime you can, advocate. If you're a cyclist and you're listening to this, which I hope you are, because it's the RVA Bike Scene, speak out when you can. Join RABA, join the Bike League. Reach out to all your congressional and district people and tell them that you want bike lanes and you want funding, and get your voice heard. And then bike, and then bike in different groups. There's critical mass that happens periodically in the Richmond area, which advocates for bike lanes.
We have the Virginia Bicycle Federation is the state entity, and we also have Bike Walk RVA, which is our local entity. So if you're in Virginia, if you're in Richmond, get involved, sign up for their newsletter. It doesn't come out that often. It's not going to annoy you. The people there are doing really good work, and they fall under Sports Backers, which is a bigger nonprofit organization. So it's a well-established group. It's not a community group that's just a couple of neighbors decided to put it together. It is a well-organized group, and they're doing really good work. Sign up for the newsletters, get involved, see when your community meetings are, go to the community meetings and say, hey, I really want this thing.
Yeah. And speak out when you can, and bike. And, I feel like lately cyclists are, maybe not lately, it just seems like all the time, but maybe it's ramped up that cyclists are again getting harassed online, at least about, when anyone posts something about cycling, the naysayers like, get out of the, get on the sidewalk and get on this and get on, just, speak out when you can about why good infrastructure is needed and everything that goes under that umbrella.
We've had a few here in the Richmond area. We've had a few pedestrian deaths in the last, 3 weeks, I guess 4 weeks. And every one of those starts a new conversation. And every one of those conversations has some level of, they shouldn't have been there. The victim blaming is always present. And, what were they wearing? What time was it? And while that's a piece of the puzzle, there's also the fact that in some of these areas, there's no sidewalk, or, people have to get to work.
No lighting.
And no lighting, right? People have to get to work. Some people work, if you work at, it doesn't matter where you work. If it's a restaurant job that serves breakfast, maybe you have to be there at 4 a.m. If you have to be there at 4 a.m., you're traveling in the dark.
Yeah.
If you get off at the restaurant, Chili's, Applebee's, local restaurant, whatever, you get off at 1 o'clock in the morning. If you don't have a car, how do you get home? There are neighbors, there are friends, there, my coworker's kid. We know these people. Yeah. They're our community.
So speak out, support infrastructure, do what you can. And you guys do this already by listening and hopefully sharing this podcast. So there's one other thing that you also marked this as something to talk about. I did too. It's about what's going on in Lakeside and Henrico. Lakeside. I love parts of Lakeside. I think it's great. There's great Final Gravity is there, cool antique shop, and some other stuff. So do you want to talk about what's going on there, or?
We can both hit this one. Lakeside is, it's a great retail area. There's auto places, there's hair salons, there's a clothing store. We have a great aquarium, pet store and a veterinary emergency center.
Yeah, they got all
It's
the
got
service. They got all the
it,
services there. It's
it
close to
really
Bryant
it
Park,
really is everything,
Lewis Kinter.
and it's a great corridor. Currently 4 lanes. It's 2 lanes in each direction and 35 mile an hour, but people typically drive quite a bit faster than that. It's got a few big intersections. It's got a little curve in it. It's got a hill. It's got a highway interchange. So it's a vital corridor, but it's also a little bit of the speed limit shouldn't be 35 because there's so many people
Well,
coming in and coming out of parking lots.
so let me phrase this for kind of, or put a capsule on it in a way. So Henrico came up with this ambitious plan called Henrico. It's part of their Henrico Next, which is basically drafting like, a plan to maybe see how different areas of look can look. So Lakeside, they want to bring down the lanes to 2, from 4 to 2, put in bike lanes, bump outs, help the shops make it more walk friendly, pedestrian friendly, bike friendly, things like that, and kind of make it a Carytown in a way, but not, hopefully with all the cars that are in Carytown, but, make it more appealing for people to come and go walk around, which it kind of is, but it's also, I like their vision of making it more friendly. But apparently some businesses are poo-pooing it and saying no, which is boggles my mind, because why wouldn't you want more people there? You're not going to get rid of your parking for the most part, and people could park like they do now or any place. It would just make it more of a nice destination. You think, we have Carytown, we have parts of Jackson Ward, we have parts of other places that you want to go to in the city to walk around and go to a restaurant and go, check out a shop and go buy a beer and all that stuff. Why not make it more user friendly?
The hard thing about Lakeside, and not to say that I don't want to see bike lanes, and I want it to go to 2 lanes, especially because it's one of the areas that, as someone who rides a bike in that area, I stay off of Lakeside Avenue because I've had multiple people pass me too close, too fast. And part of it is the highway interchange, which is a little bit outside of what we consider Lakeside. But when you get to the intersection of Bryant Park Avenue, which is the southern end of what would be considered the retail and restaurant section. Currently, it's the crossing for the Fall Line Trail across Lakeside over to Spring Park. Sports Backers office is right there. There's a deli 200 feet further north. The distance is a mile between that deli and Final Gravity. So it's not quite walkable in the sense like Carytown is, but it's missing a center parking area. It's missing connectivity between things so that the distance is too great. I hope that if they can find a way to do bike lanes, maybe people can get on scooters, but they also need a place for people to park that isn't in front of an establishment that then they're going to leave their car there for 45 minutes to an hour to go to some other establishment, because those parking areas are being held for the businesses that they're serving. But a mile is a little too far, and a lot of it's actually uphill from one direction to the other the entire way. So it isn't quite as walkable, but if there were a center parking area, then they might be able to pull that off. Not to say you shouldn't do it, because it needs a road diet. It's got high speed. It's got a couple of major intersections. And like I said, when you get to the point of riding a bike on those 4-lane areas, people strangely give you more space on 2-lane roads than they give you on 4-lane roads. And I've never felt safe on Lakeside. Yeah. So I stay away.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, Sean is a biker. He's a cyclist, and he knows how to ride in different conditions. So
and if he's not feeling, this is where I live.
And if he's not feeling comfortable,
I ride there. If I ride 4 times a week, I'm probably in Lakeside, at least 2 of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I understand that, and that is a really good point to bring out, that a parking deck or some type of thing would definitely help out. And I get a business owner saying, "Oh, this dork in their big truck is parking in front of here, and they're parked here all day, but they haven't come into my place of business." So I get that. I just want these areas to thrive, and for me to go, I'm jealous. I want to be able to go and walk and feel safe and take my bike there. Like, I think they don't do this anymore, but we did the Moonlight Ride that went through part of Bryant Park and on the lakeside, but that's closed and patrolled streets during that time. So it would just be a nice, I think, area to really enhance.
It's the perfect area for a road diet, and it's the perfect area to expand on what's already there. the car repair shops, you're not going to necessarily use that on a walking trip, but you might park your car while it's being inspected and venture off to the restaurant for lunch or breakfast or whatever. And those things are currently too far apart. So it might take some business infill to really make it work well, but
Yeah.
a road diet would be tremendously
Yeah, I mean
helpful in that
that's
area.
the first thing. I just it's hard because I think a lot of businesses, and this happened in Carytown. 'Cause I've done, for those who don't know, I've done 2 different stories on Carytown of closing at the cars and the influx of corporate businesses versus local businesses and things of that nature. And a lot of the business owners are so resistant to change in terms of making things better
And
for
Lakeside is
people.
all local and regional. There's nothing. There's
Wasn't there
nothing.
Carl's? Wasn't there Carl's Jr.? Or is that gone?
No, no.
Or I'm sorry, is it Harvey's? Harvey's. Or what, not
There's a
Harvey's.
There's a Hardee's and
Hardee's.
a
Yeah, Hardee's.
CVS,
Sorry. I'm
and
showing my California roots. Isn't there
yeah,
Carl's Jr.? No, it's not Carl's.
there's a Hardee's and a CVS, and outside of that, the Seredny Tire is a regional. They have a
Yeah.
Chesterfield location, but they're not
Yeah, it's not a
state.
big.
They're not big, and that's where I take my cars. So it's a place I can drop the car off and ride my bike back home.
Yeah.
It's perfect for me. But it is for that area. It still is a little disjointed, but if you were to bring some slower traffic in a walkable area, there would be a little bit more infill eventually. It may not be
Yeah.
tomorrow, but it'll be, it will happen.
Yeah. You know what I'd like to have happen, and I was fantasizing about this because I do this a lot. I was on Whole Street, and it would be so great to have a light rail go from all the way downtown. What's that noise again? I think you're brushing something. So it'd be great to have a whole. Maybe it was me. I don't know, but have
I know.
light.
I know what it was.
All right, have light rail go from Whole Street all the way out to where Amelia starts. Have like a pulse, but like a light rail, so people could just. Wow, that's loud. I hate loud cars like that. But
Motorcycles. I
go
live
all the
next
way
to the
out
road,
there.
man.
Yeah, but that's my fantasy of just like there's 6 lanes for the most part, 55 in a lot of areas, 45 in some high injury network in places, lots of cars, lots of traffic. Not that people will want to do it, but my fantasy is like a light rail or a bus where you can make certain stops to get people out of their cars. I could switch over to Courthouse and take a bus that should go from the courthouse in Chesterfield all the way back to the city. A network of
One of the BRT projects was north to south, but with a southern branch down one of the two, Midlothian or Hull Street.
Yeah.
That I think went maybe something like Brandermill or Chesterfield Town Center,
Yeah.
Stonehenge, whatever that area.
There's a JRTC's gone all the way out now. They go out there, and if they
Yeah.
make it a pulse, which would be even better. So,
Yeah, that's what one of the plans was. I don't know, they've had so many different iterations. In my neighborhood, we're talking about the north south BRT pulse, and they're looking at taking like, I don't know, 6 feet of my front yard, and so I have a personal stake in that one. I want to see it. I want to see it done well. When they need a road shift, it depends on where the road shifts and what it's taking away from. But I don't know, what's been decided because those meetings have all been Tuesday nights or whatever when I have things to do. So
yeah. Well,
but yeah, we could have that. It would be simple to
Yeah.
get a BRT type bus further out, and it would certainly expand our options for who can work what jobs and where they can live.
Reach into the choir. Well,
I know.
We've kept everyone long enough. A reminder for everyone to like and subscribe and check out my work in the Richmond Magazine, Virginia Mercury. I'm working on a story there. The Richmonder as well. The Richmonder 25. I'm doing a few stories with that. Ian Stewart Cycles. I'll have my GoPro working, which is really dorky and fun. But Sean, I'll leave this with, who do you think is going to win the Tour de France Femme avec Swift?
I would like to say Reusser can maintain her spot on Ventoux. I think it's very likely that Vollering is the strongest, but if Cassia can stay with her, I would love to see Cassia with a big upset.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that women's cycling is so much fun to watch is there isn't a truly dominant Grand Tour rider, and right now it's been great. I mean,
so many great riders. I mean, you have three past winners are battling it out. I was on the fantasy league through the Tour de France Femme and Tour de France. So every day I get to pick the stage winners, and I suck at it. Although I had Zoe Backstead for TT for the time trials.
I had Reusser, so
Oh, good for you. And
I
then
didn't think she'd get yellow, but
and then
I'm not on a fantasy team. Just between me and a couple of people, I said Reusser was going to win.
And then I had Cassia the other day, I guess yesterday, when Vollering. Then I mean, Cassia was
really
so close, and I'm like,
that,
oh my god, she's gonna do it.
She's gonna do it. No,
and then nope, Demi just went boop.
Yeah.
But it's such a great race, and then the coverage has been.
I mean, Ventoux is so much like a long time trial that I think it's possible Reusser can stay, and I think that creates a really interesting final 2 days because Ventoux's tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
And so, but also when you look at the promise of the riders that are like just tailing off the back, like Vladarchik, and there's just a few riders that are almost able to stay with Vollering on the climbs. And yesterday really kind of pointed a few of those out, Neve Fisher Black. And so we've got a few that are, in the next 2 or 3 years that are going to take over.
So many great riders. And
Paula Blasi is gonna get her moment to win a big Grand Tour. And so I say that did she win? She won a stage in the Vuelta, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, where people started talking about her and like, oh.
But there's a lot of riders that are gonna be in that next group.
Yeah. Well, I have Cassia Nui Doma Finney as my underdog to win, because I'm hoping she would. I mean, I love Demi, and and Paula, of course, is phenomenal, but I have Cassia as my prediction to win, just because I'd love to see an underdog. She has been battling and trying to get close, but it's really interesting too, and then we can go, because you and I could talk about this later, but Demi did this as well, where I feel like she really got some help with her mental health over the past years and kind of changed her outlook. Where
she's a different person.
Like a different person. And same with Cassia. Like, they interviewed her the other day or yesterday for her third place. And they're like, yeah, how do you feel? Basically, how do you feel? And she's like, man, I'm happy I got third. That was great. Like, what a, she wasn't like, oh, I'm mad. And so I'm so glad that they're taking care of their mental health. And like Demi, in the beginning, when I first knew about Demi, I was like, oh, I like her. She's amazing. But man, not that I care about people's personalities, but you kind of want to root for people that you're like, oh, what a amazing person / athlete.
I think one of the mental adjustments that's been made in the women's field is that somebody like Vollering and Van der Breggen before her were able to just ride away. And now they can't play that card because there's so many other riders that are available to be an antagonist to that style of riding. So it's not the same as it was even 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It's changed drastically, and the Grand Tours that we're seeing 9 days now. I read an article about this the other day. I'll try to finish up with this. That the resources for women's cycling weren't there in the years past, and so now they've got a few teams, not all of them, but like the Trek team, Lidl Trek, uses the tour bus that has the like ice bath that the men used. The teams that don't have a full men's complement, like UAE, Lidl Trek, FDJ, they don't have that. So these riders are getting definitely better treatment than the lower teams. And so those riders are going to be on top of all of the things, the nutrition, the massage, the best equipment, whatever. But the swing is still going up.
Yeah.
We're going to see it more and more. It's going to get more and more competitive. More and more riders will be able to win. There's nowhere for it to go but up. And I'm hoping that the funding continues.
Yeah, me too. And I have Anna Van der Breggen on my fantasy team. Yeah. So hard to pick. That's what I love about women's cycling. So hard to pick, like, so many great riders.
And all of their personalities are great. They're all excited for each other when they win. Like there's no like head down moment. I mean, there's a head down in the moment, but afterwards they all hug each other, and it's such it used to not be that in men's cycling.
I think Pog does that. I think Pog has helped make that more acceptable, because he's just like, he just loves to ride, and he's so happy when whoever wins, and he'll thank him. And I know we keep talking, but the one who's poo-pooing it, this dork named Lance Armstrong, who is mad about that, which we don't need to talk about that yet. But anyways, what was it? Shoot, I was going to say something else, but
they all pat each other on the back now.
Yeah,
years ago you wouldn't have seen that. It would have been straight to the bus. If you lost, it was straight to the bus.
Yeah. And I will remind people that if you are watching the Tour de France Femme avec Swift, My interview with Kristen Faulkner is still up on Ian Stewart Cycles somewhere. Just type in Kristen Faulkner, Ian Stewart Cycles, and you can see the interview I did with her after she won 2 gold at the Olympics. She's a really fascinating person to talk about. Also, Jez Cox I interviewed, who's one of the British broadcasters. Sorry to plug my own stuff, but
you got to do it.
Yeah, got to do it. All right, so Sean, take it easy.
All
We'll
right.
talk. We'll talk soon, right?
All right. We'll talk hopefully next week, and everybody else, go ride your bike.
Stay safe. Close your rings. See you next time.